Hey, what's going on out there, guys? It's Mr. V coming at you live from my living room. I know that I had some technical difficulties the other day in terms of our audio. I totally forgot to hit the unmute button here on my microphone. I had it switched that way. I got it fully on today, so we're ready to go. Going to kick it off with some theme music. It's kind of like a thing I've been doing. Again, even though I know you folks out there couldn't hear it the other day. Today's a bonus session, by the way. We're going to be covering some writing concepts that we had worked on prior to this extended break from school. So just going to kick it off with a little bit of music in honor of my award-winning shirt today, which is a famous poster from the television show The X-Files, which is one of Mr. V's favorites of all time. So here we go. All right, so I'm just going to stop it there. I'm not going to play the full theme song, but you get the drift. Things are a little bit strange out there, just like the X-Files theme song seems to convey to us, the audience. Kind of creates that mood of suspense and all those fun things we talk about in the LA class. So going to pop my screen up and share with you all what we'll be working on today. All right. So as I had mentioned, today is a bonus session, so going to have things run a little bit differently. As you may recall, prior to our break, you guys had just completed your summative essays for Lyddie, in which you had to respond to the question of whether or not she should sign the petition that Diana Goss has been circulating. So what I've done today is I selected one of your essays. I've taken your name off of it, and we're going to kind of just go over the overall structure and why this essay would be considered exemplary, meaning that it is a 5 in idea development and a 3 in standard English conventions. So before we dive into the essay, just going to quickly go over the rubric as to why this essay, meets the criteria for an exemplary essay, meaning it's a perfect score. I mean, there's some things that I think the author could still work on, as always, but today we're really just going to be focusing on the positive and the things that they did right, and share it with you guys. So hopefully you can execute this in your writing if you're not meeting, that exemplary status. So for idea development, as you know, this refers to the quality and development of the central idea, the selection and explanation of evidence and/or details, the overall organization of the essay, which we're really going to focus on today, the expression of ideas, and awareness of task and mode. So again, this essay meets the score of a 5, which I'm going to highlight now in idea development, because the central idea is insightful and fully developed. The author uses a skillful selection and explanation of evidence and/or details. So again, they're very thorough in their explanation and analysis, and they choose quality evidence to convey, our understanding. Next, the author uses skillful and/or subtle organization, which again is going to be the main focus of today's essay. It seems like a lot of us out there, struggle with organization. I think that most of you showed a lot of improvement on this assignment based on that information. And then, let's not forget, we spent a lot of time outlining and planning this essay, and I felt like overall the class as a whole did very well. Next, the author provides rich expression of ideas, meaning that there's quality word choice, and again, that thorough explanation. And they show full awareness of the task and mode, meaning that they show that they fully understand what they had to complete, and how they had to complete this essay. All right, moving on over to standard English conventions. This deals with sentence structure, which we've talked a lot about during intervention in the past couple of months, grammar usage and mechanics. So, using proper punctuation and proper, verb tense in their writing. So this author scored a 3 here because they had consistent control of a variety of sentence structures relative to the length of essay, meaning that they showed a variety of different sentence structures, simple sentences, complex, compound, complex. Although I don't recall seeing a compound complex, they did show that they could use a variety of sentence structures. So at least 3 of the 4, as I discussed with you folks prior to our break. Additionally, the author scored a 3 because they show consistent control of grammar, usage, and mechanics relative to the complexity and or length of essay, meaning that, they punctuated things appropriately and used, again, the correct verb tenses within their writing. So, the word choice and everything like that really meshed well together. So now I'm going to go to the essay and going to see that the essay at some points looks like a bag of Skittles, but I'm going to go over those notes after. So just to quickly review the prompt, and again, I'll share this document with you folks on Google Classroom so you can check it out at your own leisure. But the prompt we had to respond to was read that after reading through Chapter 17 of Lyddie, write an argumentative essay that addresses the question, should Lyddie sign the petition that Diana Goss is circulating? Why or why not? Support your position with evidence from the novel. Be sure to acknowledge competing views and refer only to information and events in the book, not what you know because you live in 2020. Okay. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And again, I'm going to show you the body of the essay. So just again, on a quick preview, just so you folks know, these things on the right are some of my talking points. They're comments that I provided that explain all these various highlights that you see within a couple of the paragraphs. So just on, overall eye appeal, okay, you can, again, see that the author organized their paragraphs appropriately, meaning that they're indented. There are several paragraphs here. So, just upon first glance, I can tell that, this author really understood what they needed to complete. It looks structured appropriately, but obviously, as we know, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, which is an idiomatic phrase, meaning that, the proof is really in the details. So whether or not this is a quality essay really lies within the content of the essay itself. So I'm going to start by reading the essay aloud, and then I'll go back and explain just real quickly. Again, this is a bonus session, so I'm going to keep things a bit brief today. But then I'll just, kind of explain some of these highlights. So I'm going to zoom back in because it is difficult to read through all these colors. At least for me, maybe I'm getting old. Maybe for you guys, this is the norm. But here we go. Back then, girls and women had to work in a factory with terrible working conditions and low pay in order to make a living for themselves. Lyddie has to work in a factory to pay off her family's debts so she can reunite her family. A petition goes around the factory for less working hours, but Lyddie doesn't know if she should sign or not. I think Lyddie should sign the petition Diana Goss is circulating because if they have less hours, then they are less likely to get sick. The factory girls could have more time to themselves, and the girls are being overworked. All right, so that's the end of their introduction. So here we go. Continuing on. Since the girls would work less hours, they are less likely to get sick. When Betsy got sick, she had to go to the hospital. Afterward, Betsy was too weak to continue working and had to leave the factory. The coughing persisted. She began to spend days in their bedroom, then the house infirmary, until, finally, when blood showed up in her phlegm, Mrs. Bedloe demanded that she be removed to the hospital. And this is from Paterson, page 112. If the workers spend too much time in the factory, they could get badly sick and have to leave. Even if they get better, they have spent all their money on doctors. It would take a while to earn it all back. They also might not be able to go back to work because they will be too weak. Overall, it would make her less likely to get sick if she has less hours. Now to body paragraph 2. If Lyddie signed, the girls could have more time to themselves. Some girls have so many looms to tend that they work too much, get tired, have to rest, and end up not having time to themselves. She had done so well on her 2, then 3 machines that Mr. Marsden had given her a 4th loom to tend. Paterson, page 98. Lyddie has no time to herself when she gets back to the boarding house because she is too worn out to do anything. If she had less hours to work, then she wouldn't be as tired. She would also be more eager to do things after work. She wouldn't just be tired all day. Overall, she would have more time to herself if she signed. Now to body paragraph 3. The girls are being overworked in the factory. The machines were sped up and they have more looms to tend, which makes it hard to keep up. When I started in the spinning room, I could do a 13-hour day and to spare, but in those days I had 130 spindles to tend. Now I've twice that many at a speed that would make the devil curse. I'm worn out, Amelia. We're all worn out. By the end of the day, all the workers are worn out and have no energy. Since the machine sped up, barely anyone can keep up anymore. The workers go home more tired than normal and only want to eat and sleep. Everyone in the factory gets worn out at work because of tending multiple machines that are sped up so they work twice as fast. In summary, the workers are being overworked, and signing would make them less tired after work. So now we're here at body paragraph number 4. And if you recall, body paragraph number 4 was the paragraph we set aside for the counter argument. So now this author is going to explain a counter argument, meaning that they're going to make a counterclaim based on what some of those who think that she shouldn't sign might say. So it reads, some people believe Lyddie shouldn't sign because she could get blacklisted and left without a job. So in this paragraph, she's going to explain that blacklisting and being without a job isn't necessarily a possibility or reality, I should say. Okay, so at least that's the argument they're making. So let me just restart. Some people believe Lyddie shouldn't sign because she could get blacklisted and left without a job. Throughout the book, it is shown that if you sign the petition, you'll get blacklisted and no other corporation in Lowell will hire you. What will you do with no job? You'd be blacklisted. No other corporation would hire you. Paterson, page 92. This evidence shows that if Lyddie signs, she won't have a job anymore, but she needs her job to reunite her family. However, their argument is invalid. So now they're challenging the argument. So their argument is invalid because both Betsy and Diana signed, but they didn't get blacklisted or lose their job. If no one found out that Lyddie signed, then she'd be fine. Even if she does get blacklisted, she could move with the money she already has and find a job there. To sum up, if Lyddie signs, there's no guarantee that she will be blacklisted. Again, an excellently stated counter argument presented by this author. Now the conclusion paragraph. Now I know a lot of us struggle with conclusions, and we're going to talk about the conclusion, one of the body paragraphs, and the introduction in a bit more specifics. As you can see, these were the paragraphs that were highlighted. So the conclusion reads, I believe Lyddie should sign the petition Diana Goss is circulating because if they have less hours, then it's less likely for them to get sick. The girls could have more time to themselves, and they are being overworked. If Lyddie signs, the girls have less time in the factory and lowers their chance of getting sick. If she signed, she and the other girls in the factory would have more time to themselves because they would have less hours. Also, she wouldn't be worn out after work because she wouldn't be overworked. To add on, there is no guarantee that she will be blacklisted because Betsy and Diana didn't. Altogether, Lyddie should sign the petition because it would help the girls avoid exhaustion and illness so they can work better in the factory. All right, so again, a very well-stated conclusion paragraph. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get more into these highlighted sections, okay? So you'll see that the introduction paragraph, I had used the colors of purple, green, and orange to highlight key elements of the structure of the introduction paragraph. Okay, so I'm going to read from the notes over here in the comments. It says, the introduction paragraph is structured appropriately. The author uses a historical review hook statement to begin. So this opening statement here was a historical review to kind of put us in that time period. Again, it's a little vague in that it says back then. They probably could have been more specific in as to the where and when this work was taking place. Maybe mention that it was 1843. So, back in 1843 in Lowell, Massachusetts might have been a better start. But again, they make a solid attempt or a bona fide attempt to, use a historical review to capture our attention as readers. Continuing on, the author then proceeds to provide necessary background information for the audience. So what you see in green here is the necessary background information we need in order to access the information within the essay. So it reads, Lyddie has to work in a factory to pay off her family's debt so she can reunite her family. A petition goes around the factory for less working hours, but Lyddie doesn't know if she should sign or not. So again, this kind of really sets up the problem. The only thing that I would consider adding to this background information is probably the title and author of the text. So maybe just starting, back here with In Lyddie by Katherine Paterson, the main character, and then continuing on with what they wrote. Okay, again, they still captured the essence. As somebody who's read the book, which again, probably the author might have assumed like, oh, maybe I don't need to put the author in the title because Mr. V's read the book and he's my audience. That's just a minor critique that I could offer to this writer. Continuing on to the what's in orange here. Okay, so in orange we have the author's thesis statement, which outlines their reasons for their opinion. So their thesis statement, again, outlines their opinion. So it says that Lyddie should sign the petition. So there we see they stated their opinion, and then they offer their 3 reasons why. The first reason being that if they have less hours, they're less likely to get sick. The factory girls could have more time to themselves is their second reason. And then lastly, their third reason is that the girls are being overworked. Okay. All right. So continuing now, hopefully that makes a bit more sense as far as the structure of the introduction paragraph. Again, I think this author did a really nice job capturing all of the information we need to know in response to this question. So going to the body paragraphs, now all of the body paragraphs follow this same structure, okay, which I'm going to go over the structure of the body paragraph. Again, we've talked about this before in response to text structure. We've done this during teacher-led group numerous times. So again, this should really be a review. So to start, it says, since the girls would work less hours, they are less likely to get sick. So this, what you see in green, is their topic sentence, okay, which states their claim. So again, the author feels that Lyddie should sign the petition because the girls would work less hours, and then ultimately we'd be less likely that they would get sick. Now what we see in yellow, it says the author proceeds to interpret and introduce the evidence, then state their evidence. So over here, up until this point, the author actually sets up the evidence and kind of, sets the stage for our understanding. They kind of bring us back to the text. They put the evidence in context, which is what we need to get in the habit of doing as writers, is introducing the evidence, not just throwing it out there and hoping that it sticks for the audience. So it says, when Betsy got sick, she had to go to the hospital. Afterward, Betsy was too weak to continue working and had to leave the factory. So this tells me that this upcoming quote is about Betsy and when Betsy was sick and at the hospital. So this quote here, and then their evidence again is appropriately formatted. They've quoted the direct lines from the text, and then they proceeded to include the author's name in parentheses, and then the page number as well. And then again, the period goes after the citation. Okay, again, we call this piece here the citation. Okay, so again, it's always important we cite our evidence. We cite our evidence by including the author's last name and the page number, which again, this author does here, very accurately. Okay, continuing on to what we see in pink, it says if the workers spend too much time in the factory, they could get badly sick and have to leave. Even if they get better, they have spent all their money on doctors. It would take a while to earn it all back. They also might not be able to go back to work because they will be too weak. All right, so here is all the explanation that the author offers up for their evidence. And again, it's very thorough. You'll see that it's not just one sentence. They have 4 sentences here in total. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So again, very thoroughly explained. I think they did a nice job making their point very clear and obvious to the reader. And then lastly, what you see here in blue, or what I call cyan, we used to have this character when I was back in high school that we made on a computer. We called him Captain Cyan. So this color is actually cyan, but I'm calling it blue for you folks out there that might not know what cyan is. And cyan is spelled C-Y-A-N. So the conclusion statement again wraps up the essence of the paragraph, and it says overall it would make her less likely to get sick if she has less hours. So again, bringing the audience back to the topic sentence was a great strategy that the author of this essay employed. All right, as you can see, the remaining body paragraphs I did not bother to highlight because I'd honestly, if hopefully you're watching this, maybe it's something that you could practice on your own and try to identify where the topic sentence is, where the evidence is introduced and stated, as well as the explanation and conclusion statement, because this author does a great job of following what we call parallel structure, meaning that they use this consistent structure throughout their body paragraphs. So we're going to fast forward now to the conclusion. So the conclusion paragraph, all right, it says the conclusion also follows the correct structure. The first sentence restates the author's thesis. So right here is where the author restates the thesis from up here. Okay, so from right up here, they've pretty much copied and pasted it into their conclusion, which again, maybe they could have added a transition here, or, you know, instead of starting with I believe, maybe had been a bit more creative with their word choice. But again, nothing, you know, that is worthy of penalizing them for, because they did such an excellent job in the other parts of this essay. So the first sentence and the conclusion, they chose to restate their thesis. Then what you see in these highlighted sections are the summary statements that the author uses for each paragraph. So the highlighted sentence here in green is the summary sentence for the first body paragraph, which we actually just reviewed. The sentence in yellow highlights the second body paragraph, so, or I shouldn't say highlights, but summarizes the second body paragraph. What you see in cyan blue it summarizes the third body paragraph. And then what you see here in orange or peach is a summary statement for the counter-argument paragraph, which I was actually quite impressed that the author chose to summarize that point as well. And then finally, this statement here is what we would call the summation statement. So this really recaptures the essence of the essay overall. So it says, just from the notes, the final sentence serves to reinforce the author's opinion about why they believe Lyddie should sign the petition. So this sentence here reinforces their opinion by saying that Lyddie should sign the petition because it would help the girls avoid exhaustion and illness so they can work better in the factory. So that gives us, you know, a great summary of the main points of their essay in its entirety. So I'm going to switch this back over to stop presenting, and I'm going to just quickly conclude our lesson today. So today's lesson, again, the objective, I would say, was for us to be able to understand the structure of a summative essay, in particular the parts of the body paragraph, the introduction, and the conclusion. Hopefully today's lesson was helpful to you. I'll be back again tomorrow. Probably with another bonus session. It seems like the iReady lessons get a bit cumbersome sometimes for you guys. We'll get back to those at some point. But, you know, I definitely just wanted to offer this chance to give you guys some feedback and let you know that, you know, hey, I am, you know, obviously taking a look at your essays and want to help you continue to become better writers. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you folks out there all have an outstanding day. If you're tuning in live, thanks for tuning in. If not, hopefully you enjoyed this recording and walked away with a new understanding about how to structure your argumentative essays appropriately, and how to structure the paragraphs or the information within those paragraphs appropriately. So with that being said, I'm Mr. V. You guys have a good one, and don't forget, wash your hands.